Once upon a time, deep in the heart of a sunflower field, there was a tiny seed. The tiny seed was snuggled up inside its cozy coat, fast asleep, dreaming of the day it would grow up to be just like its mama, a tall, strong sunflower. One day, a strong wind began to blow. It blew, and it blew, until the tiny seed popped out of the flower head and began to tumble through the air. Higher and higher it went, way up into the sky, above the clouds and the birds, past the swinging, sliding clouds, and all the way across the land. As it floated along, the tiny seed saw many of its brothers and sisters fall to the ground and be lost forever. Some landed on bare patches of ground where the hot, hot sun quickly burned them up. Others fell into the wide ocean where they were tossed about by the waves until they sank to the bottom and disappeared. And still others landed on a plate of food for a family of birds. Snap, crackle, crunch, munch, munch, gulp. That was the sound of the end for many seeds, but not for our little seed. No. Sire, our tiny seed kept on floating. It floated all through the autumn, all through the winter, until finally, one day in the early spring, it landed on a nice bed of soft, cool earth. Here at last, the tiny seed could rest. It wriggled its roots down into the soil and pushed its little green shoot up towards the light, and that's when the adventures of the tiny seed began. At first, life was wonderful. The warm sun shone down, the gentle rain fell, and the tiny seed grew taller and stronger every day. But then one day, a family of rabbits hopped by. They wiggled their noses in the air and bounced merrily across the field, completely unaware of the havoc they were wreaking, until thump, thump, trample, trample, crunch. The rabbits had trodden most of the tiny seed's petals into the ground. The tiny seed felt all droopy and wilted. Oh, dearie me, it thought, is this the end of my story? Will I never get to grow up to be a beautiful sunflower? But then a little girl skipped into the field. She, too, was oblivious to the tiny seed's plight as she skipped and twirled and played. But then, whoops, right through the middle of the field, she tripped. Ha ha, hooray, thought the tiny seed. Maybe now someone will notice me. Sure enough, when the girl fell, she landed right on top of the tiny seed. She looked down and gasped. Oh, a little seed, she cried. How could I have been so blind as not to see you before? Carefully, she plucked the tiny seed from the ground and ran off to find a nice pot to plant it in. After that, life was even better for the tiny seed. The girl watered it every day and sang to it and even read it stories from her favorite books. And before long, the tiny seed grew and grew until one day, whoop, it shot up like a rocket and out popped the most beautiful flower the world had ever seen. Its petals were as bright and sunny as gold, and its center was a deep, rich purple. Oh, what a glorious flower I have become, it thought. I am truly the most beautiful sunflower in the whole wide world. But then, one crisp autumn day, the flower felt something deep inside start to stir. It felt a rumble, a wiggle, a tiny fluttering sensation. What in the world, it thought. I've never felt anything like this before. Then, all of a sudden, swoosh! A gust of wind blew through the field. It tousled the flower's petals and tickled its stem until pop, pop, puff, puff, hundreds and hundreds of tiny seeds popped right out of its head. The flower watched as the tiny seeds tumbled and danced in the wind. Some flew up into the sky, higher and higher and higher. Others floated over the hills and far, far away. Still more drifted down into the valleys below, and as the flower watched, its heart swelled with pride because it knew that each and every one of those tiny seeds would find a nice bed of soil in which to rest, a warm patch of sun in which to grow, and a cool drink of water in which to quench its thirst. Each one would grow up to be a strong, healthy sunflower, just like its papa and just like its mama. And each one would live a long, happy life until one day they, too, would pop open their heads and send their own tiny seeds dancing on the wind. And that's how the circle of life goes on and on and on forever and ever.